My name is Samuel Turner, but everybody on Maple Street just calls me Sam. I'm 65, retired after 40 years turning wrenches at Grady's Auto. My hands don't need a clock to remember the day. Coffee at 6, sweep the garage at 7, dog walk by 8, and a slow lap past the high school where my wife Linda May used to work library duty on Thursdays. Linda's been gone 2 years now. I still keep her radio on the kitchen counter, tuned to the same AM station that crackles through ball games and farm reports. It makes the house sound lived in. When my granddaughter Emily asked if she could stay a couple months to save for an apartment, I said yes before she finished the sentence. 24, all nervous energy and big city dreams, she filled the place with the noise I didn't know I missed. Coffee grinder too early, Bluetooth speaker too loud, phone calls that start with "Oh my God." She called me Pops when she wanted something, and Mr. Turner when she remembered her manners. I tightened a leaky faucet, fixed her tail light, and pretended I didn't notice her skipping rent, because I liked having someone kick shoes by the door again. On Sundays, I polish Linda's cedar chest. It sits under the front window, sunlight finding the scratches we never bothered to sand out. Inside are the last things of hers I know by heart. Church gloves, recipe cards in her tidy hand. A folded blue scarf that still smells like lilac if you hold it close enough. When I'm alone, I take out the jewelry box, dark walnut with a brass hinge, and lift the lid the way you lift a hymn book. There isn't much inside, not the kind that shines up a pawn ticket, just the kind that shines up a life. Her wedding band with the nick from when she slammed the freezer in '93. A thin gold chain I bought on our 10th anniversary. The little pearl earrings she wore to our son's graduation. I've never been a rich man, but I've been rich enough to love one woman well. The day it started, the house smelled like rain and motor oil. Emily breezed in late, swore she'd be home by midnight, and kissed my cheek on the run. "You're the best, Pops," she said, grabbing a hoodie from the banister. I watched the porch light swallow her and told myself to stop counting the ways the world is faster than me now. Monday morning I brewed coffee and set the mug where Linda used to sit. Habit more than ceremony. I opened the cedar chest to put away a church bulletin I'd meant to file and reached for the jewelry box. Already tasting the old memory it keeps, my hand closed on empty cedar. I pushed aside the scarf, the gloves, the recipe cards. Nothing. The little brass hinge wasn't hiding under anything. The box was simply gone. For a long minute, I stood there listening to the AM station buzz through static like it might explain this. Then I checked the hall table, our bedroom closet, even the coat pocket I wore to her funeral. Every place I could have set it down. Every place I would never set it down. By the time I made it back to the chest, the coffee had cooled and my heartbeat had not. I stared at the hollow space where 40 years of promises used to sit and told myself there had to be a sensible answer. But sensible answers don't leave clean rectangles of dust, like a picture lifted off a wall and carried away. I waited until Emily came home that night. She breezed through the door smelling like perfume and rain, earbuds in, thumbs flying across her phone. I was sitting at the kitchen table with the coffee pot still warm and the cedar chest open beside me. "Hey, Pops," she said, dropping her purse onto a chair. "You look serious. What's up?" I tapped the empty space inside the chest. "Where's your grandmother's jewelry box?" She blinked once, then smiled, too quick. "You mean the one with the little pearls? You told me I could have it, remember?" The words hit like a loose wrench across knuckles. "I said you could look at it, not take it." Her laugh came out nervous. "No, you said you should have something to remember her by." I thought you meant the whole box. I even told Mom on FaceTime. I stared at her, waiting for some sign of a joke. None came. Emily, that box isn't a souvenir. It's your grandmother's life, and I didn't give it away. She rolled her eyes. Pops, you're overreacting. It's not like she's using it anymore. That sentence cracked something deep inside me. Get it back, I said quietly. Tonight. She sighed, shrugging one shoulder. Can't. I already, packed it. Don't worry, I'll keep it safe. When she went upstairs, I just sat there listening to the floor creak above me. Every step a reminder that she was too young to know how long regret lasts. The phone rang after she closed her door. It was my sister-in-law, Judy. Sam, did you really give Emily all of Linda's jewelry? She asked. Her tone was half gossip, half disbelief. She posted a picture online, said you wanted her to have everything for her wedding. For a moment, I couldn't speak. The coffee on the table trembled in the cup as my hand tightened around it. No, Judy, I didn't give her a damn thing. By morning, 2 neighbors had called asking the same question. Sweet gesture, Mr. Turner, one said. Didn't know you were giving away Mrs. Turner's heirlooms. Every word felt like sandpaper on skin. Linda's name, twisted into charity. My love for her turned into some doting old man's confusion. That afternoon, I went online. Emily's social media page showed a photo of her smiling at a jewelry counter, the same pearl earrings gleaming in her hand. Caption: Grandma always wanted me to shine like her. Hundreds of likes, heart emojis, comments about what a sweet memory it was. But my eyes went past the caption to the reflection in the glass case. Behind the pearls, faint but clear, was the pawn shop's neon sign. Cash and gold exchange, Route 17. I leaned closer to the screen, my pulse thudding hard. Linda's jewelry wasn't being kept safe. It was being sold. I shut the laptop and stared out the window where the evening sun burned low and red across the yard. She hadn't just taken from me. She'd taken from Linda, and tomorrow I was going to find out exactly how far that theft went. Because some things you don't pawn, and one of them is a woman's memory. I drove to Cash and Gold Exchange the next morning before the sun cleared the church steeple. The sign buzzed like a trapped hornet, open, flashing in red. Inside, glass counters gleamed under cheap fluorescent light. Behind one of them sat a man in a denim vest counting bills. I slid Linda's old photograph across the glass. She was wearing the same pearl earrings Emily had posted online. Did this come through here? I asked. He looked at the picture, then me. Maybe. We get a lot of pearls. You got a ticket? I'm not the seller, I said. But the girl who brought them in lives under my roof. He shrugged. Can't talk without proof of ownership, old-timer. 2 words. Old-timer. And something hard twisted in my chest. I left without another word, but as the door swung shut, I caught sight of a familiar keychain hanging on the back wall, a pink plastic heart with Emily's initials scratched into it. Proof enough. By the time I got home, she was at the table, cereal bowl in hand, earbuds dangling. I set the photo down beside her spoon. Went to the pawn shop, I said. Her eyes flicked up, then down again. Why would you do that? They said the girl who sold the pearls had this keychain. She stared at it, color draining from her face. Maybe someone stole it from me. Don't lie, Emily. My voice came out low and even, the same tone I used when the torque wrench clicked too tight. I saw your post. You didn't just take her jewelry. You sold it, and you let people think I gave it to you. She shoved the bowl away. Why are you making this such a big deal? You always said you wanted me to have something nice. I'm just trying to live, Pops. You wouldn't understand. I understand stealing, I said. And I understand shame. You're giving both as gifts now. Her mouth trembled, but then she found her edge again. You think anyone's going to believe you over me? They already said you forget things. Maybe you mixed up what you said. That stung more than I expected. For a second, I almost questioned myself. Then I remembered Linda's hands polishing that jewelry box every spring. I remembered every detail of it because love burns clear. It doesn't fade. Where's the receipt? I asked. She froze. What receipt? The one from the pawn shop, because I'm getting those pieces back. She stood so fast the chair tipped. You're insane. I'm late for class. She grabbed her bag and stormed out. The front door slammed, shaking the picture frames. For a while, I just stared at the dent her cereal spoon left in the table, the little half-moon mark in the wood. Then I opened my laptop again and pulled up the pawn shop's site, the timestamp on her post, the transaction record from the shop's online listings. They matched down to the minute. And worse, the listing showed more than just the pearls. Linda's wedding band and anniversary chain were gone too. I printed both pages, slid them into Linda's old recipe binder, and closed it tight. When my phone buzzed, it was Richard, my son. Dad, what the hell's going on? Emily called crying. You accused her of theft? She sold your mother's jewelry, he sighed. Dad, you've been forgetting things. Don't ruin what's left of the family over a misunderstanding. The line went dead before I could answer. I sat in that silence until it felt solid enough to touch. They didn't believe me. But I didn't need belief. I needed proof, and proof was something I'd spent a lifetime keeping clean and mechanical. Tomorrow, I'd start building it piece by piece, like any good repair. And when I was done, somebody was going to pay for every scratch they left on Linda's name. 2 days later, my name turned sour in every mouth that used to say it kindly. The first call came from my sister-in-law Judy again. Sam, what's wrong with you? Emily's heartbroken. You accused her in front of everyone? I said quietly, she sold Linda's jewelry. Oh, for heaven's sake, Judy snapped. You told her she could have it. She showed us the messages. Messages. I hung up without another word and sat staring at the wall until the second call came, from Richard. He didn't even say hello. Dad, I've had enough of this. Emily's been showing people screenshots of your texts, the ones where you supposedly told her she could take what she wanted. What screenshots? I don't know, Dad, but everyone's seen them. You need to stop this before it gets ugly. Ugly had already moved in and was sitting at my kitchen table. By afternoon, my neighbors crossed the street to avoid me. One even called, soft-voiced, asking if I needed help sorting things out with my memory. That night, I scrolled through Facebook until I found the post. Sad when grief makes people forget their own words. Grandpa gave me these before he started slipping. I'll always treasure them. There was a picture of Emily wearing Linda's chain, face turned up to the light. The comment section was a funeral for my reputation. People consoling her, praying for me, calling me poor old man losing it. I closed the laptop and pressed my hands over my face. For a long time I could smell only metal and oil, the smell that clung to me through 40 years of work. And I thought, they'll bury me alive with my tools and call it compassion. The next morning, someone knocked at the door. It was Tom Weller, my old partner from the shop. Still broad-shouldered, same scar on his thumb from when he caught it in a fan belt. Sam, he said, stepping inside, I saw that nonsense online. You didn't give that girl anything, did you? I shook my head. He grinned, a short, dangerous grin I'd seen before when a customer tried to cheat him. Then let's find out where those screenshots came from. He pulled a small tablet from his jacket. I did a little digging. Pawn shops around here list their transactions for insurance. Guess whose name is on a sales log last week? He turned the screen. Seller, Emily T. Turner. Items, pearl earrings, gold chain, wedding band. Payment, $1,200. There was even a timestamp. My throat went tight. She doctored texts to make me look senile and stole the proof she needed to cover her lie. Tom nodded. She used your phone, didn't she? You let her help set up that online bill pay last month. Bet she backed up your messages and edited them. I stared at the table where Linda's jewelry box had once rested. Tom, she didn't just take jewelry. She took Linda's story. He reached across, tapping the tablet. Then we write a better one. We'll track the transaction ID and get the security footage from the pawn shop. You know as well as I do, shops like that record everything. For the first time in weeks, I felt the faint hum of an engine catching spark. You still have that buddy at the insurance board? Tom grinned. Still owes me 2 lunches. We shook on it like the old days. Firm, silent, certain. But as he left, I caught sight of Emily's car turning onto the street. She slowed when she saw Tom's truck in my driveway. Our eyes met through the glass. Her smile was small, rehearsed, confident. The kind of smile that says, "You'll never prove it." I watched her taillights disappear and whispered, "You picked the wrong old man to lie about." Tomorrow, I'd start pulling every thread she thought she'd cut. By the end of that week, every word I said seemed to echo back at me as madness. Richard stopped returning my calls. The one time he did answer, his voice was tight, embarrassed. "Dad, you've got to stop this crusade. Emily's crying every night. You're making yourself look unstable." "Unstable?" I said. She forged messages, sold her grandmother's jewelry, and lied about it online. He sighed. "She's young. She made a mistake. But this obsession, people are worried about you." Then he hung up. That word, obsession, stuck like grit in my teeth. I wasn't obsessed. I was alone in a house full of ghosts, the only person left willing to say what really happened. That night, I tried calling Tom, but the line went to voicemail. I sat at the kitchen table with a cold plate of leftovers, the only light coming from Linda's old lamp. The radio hummed soft static, the same hum that had filled our house for 40 years, and for the first time, it sounded cruel. At 9, there was a knock at the door. I hoped it was Tom. It wasn't. 2 officers stood on the porch. One held a clipboard. "Mr. Turner? We got a call about a disturbance earlier. Something about you harassing your granddaughter online." I blinked. "What?" "She says you're sending threatening messages." "That's impossible. I don't even know her password." They looked at each other, the way cops do when they've already decided which story sounds simpler. One of them said, "Just try to keep things civil, sir." When they left, the silence that followed felt heavier than any wrench I'd ever held. Emily hadn't just stolen Linda's jewelry. She'd stolen the world's willingness to believe me. The next morning, I saw my reflection in the kitchen window. Eyes sunken, beard rough, shirt buttoned wrong, and wondered if maybe they were right. Maybe I was losing it. Maybe grief had scrambled me worse than I wanted to admit. I walked to the garage and sat on the old stool where I used to fix alternators. Dust hung in the air like it was waiting to settle on a memory. I opened the drawer where I'd kept Linda's things, a faded scarf, her reading glasses, an envelope of old photos. I couldn't even look at them without feeling my chest twist. Then I saw the corner of something black wedged under the bench, a USB drive with Tom's handwriting taped on it. A note read, "Pulled the sales records. You were right." My heart started to pound. I carried it inside, plugged it into my laptop. A spreadsheet popped open, and at the bottom was a file labeled video_proof_cam02. The thumbnail froze on a frame from the pawnshop counter. There she was, Emily, leaning on the glass, smiling, sliding Linda's wedding band across the counter while the clerk counted cash. For a long time, I just stared at the screen, my hand over my mouth. It wasn't triumph. It was grief with teeth. Linda's ring, our entire story, traded for $400 and a lie. I copied the video to a separate folder and backed it up twice. When I closed the laptop, my reflection looked back older than ever, but steadier. They could call me confused, crazy, or obsessed. Didn't matter anymore. Now I had proof. Tomorrow I'd show it to someone who still remembered what truth looked like. Morning came gray and heavy, but for the first time in weeks, I didn't wake up with dread sitting on my chest. I had something Emily didn't, a record that couldn't be explained away with fake screenshots or crocodile tears. I brewed coffee, stronger than usual, and sat staring at the paused image on my laptop. Emily's smile in that pawn shop still made my stomach twist, but the timestamp below it felt like a heartbeat. Undeniable proof. The question now was what to do with it. I couldn't go to Richard. He'd already decided his daughter was an angel and his father was an embarrassment. And if I posted it online myself, they'd call it edited. No. I needed someone who still believed in evidence over emotions. That's when a name came back to me. Officer Janet Cross. She'd grown up 2 streets over, the neighbor's kid who used to ride her bike past my garage asking to see how a carburetor breathes. She'd become a police officer in town, known for being fair and stubborn as a lugnut. I found her number in an old union contact list and dialed. She answered on the second ring. "This is Cross." "Janet," I said. "It's Sam Turner." There was a pause, then warmth in her tone. "Mr. Turner, it's been ages. How are you holding up?" "I've been declared senile, accused of harassment, and buried alive by Facebook," I said. "So, not great." She laughed softly, then heard the strain in my voice. "What's going on?" "I've got proof my granddaughter stole my late wife's jewelry, forged messages, and sold the pieces. But nobody believes me. You were a cop once who believed in hard evidence. I need help making this stick." Janet exhaled slowly. "Do you have physical proof?" "I've got video from the pawn shop showing her handover, timestamp, and a matching receipt." "That's enough to start," she said. "Meet me at the station tomorrow morning, back entrance. Bring copies, don't hand over your originals." I wrote down her instructions in my ledger. Same neat handwriting I used at the shop for decades. Each stroke steadied me. When I hung up, I sat for a long time looking around the quiet house. The air didn't feel dead anymore. It hummed faintly with purpose. I packed the USB drive, the printed receipts, and a still image from the video into a plain manila folder. On the cover, I wrote one sentence in block letters, "For Linda's name." That night, I couldn't sleep. I walked through the rooms like a man inspecting a machine before it fires up again, checking the locks, the lights, the order of things. Grief had kept me frozen. Truth was about to thaw me out. Before heading to bed, I passed by Linda's photograph on the mantel. The light caught her smile in the frame. I stopped and said quietly, "They think I'm done, sweetheart. They're about to find out I'm just getting started." I turned off the lamp, the house falling into a calm darkness I hadn't felt since before she died. Tomorrow I'd take my evidence to Janet and begin the kind of repair that fixes more than engines. By the time I reached the station the next morning, a steady rain had started. Thin, cold, unrelenting. The kind of rain that gets under your collar and reminds you you're still alive. Officer Janet Cross met me by the side entrance, her uniform jacket zipped to the chin. She looked older than I remembered, gray threading her braid, but her eyes were still sharp. "Mr. Turner," she said, ushering me inside, "you've got something to show me?" I handed her the folder. Inside were the printouts, screenshots, and the USB drive labeled video_proof_cam02. She plugged it into her computer, leaned forward, and watched silently as the pawn shop footage played. When the clip ended, she didn't say a word for a long time. Then she spoke low. "That's enough for probable cause. I can request the pawn shop's official copy and their security log. If the timestamps match your receipts, we can prove the sale happened." "Then what?" I asked. "Then we start a case file. But listen, Sam, if you want this to hold up, we'll need chain of custody. No emotional confrontations. Let me handle that part." I nodded. "I've been a mechanic 40 years, Janet. I know the difference between a wrench and a hammer. You've got my trust." She smiled faintly. "Good. While I pull the paperwork, you start a timeline. Everything Emily did, every lie she told, every post she made. Think of it like an engine, every bolt in order." That night, I did exactly that. I opened my old service ledger and started writing. Day 1, jewelry box missing. Day 2, Emily claims I gave it to her. Day 3, social media post. Day 4, pawn shop listing appears. Day 5, fake screenshots circulate. Each line steadied my breathing, like fitting parts back together after a breakdown. At midnight, my phone buzzed. A text from Tom Weller. "Got something. My buddy at the insurance board sent me a dump of the pawn shop's transaction files. There's a secondary camera. Want to see?" 5 minutes later, he emailed a still frame. Different angle this time, higher, clearer. It showed Emily pulling the jewelry box out of her tote bag at the counter. The brass hinge caught the light just right. "Print that," I texted back. "We'll need it." When I met Janet the next morning, she had another surprise. "Pulled a quick subpoena," she said. "Pawn shop confirmed the sale was processed through a card linked to Emily's checking account. Transaction number matches your log." That was the first time in weeks I let myself exhale fully. "So what happens now?" "Next," she said, "we bait the hook. You'll invite Emily back home. Act normal. Tell her you're ready to make peace. Maybe even apologize for overreacting. If she bites, we record her." I blinked. "Record her?" She nodded. "Ohio's one-party consent. If she admits she sold the items or made the posts, we'll have it on tape." I thought about it. "I can do that." "Good," Janet said, sliding me a small black recorder. "Keep it in your shirt pocket. Don't push. Just talk." That night I stood in the kitchen rehearsing the words under my breath. The recorder's red light blinking against my chest. The same table where Emily had eaten cereal now looked like a chessboard. I was no longer the old man losing his mind. I was a man setting the pieces back in place. I poured myself a coffee, checked that the recorder was working, and looked toward the stairs where she used to walk down humming in the mornings. Tomorrow, I'd invite her back and see what the truth sounded like when it finally slipped out of her own mouth. The trap was set. All I had to do now was wait for her to step into it. Emily showed up the next afternoon, right on cue. I'd left her a message that morning, just like Janet advised. Soft voice, no anger, just an old man wanting to make peace. She walked in carrying a to-go coffee and that same bright, practiced smile. "Hey, Pops," she said, cheerful as ever. "I'm glad you called. I hated how things ended." "Me too," I said, keeping my voice low and even. "Sit down, sweetheart. Let's talk." The small recorder rested behind my shirt pocket, the red light hidden. I pressed the button with a slow thumb while reaching for my coffee. The faint click sounded like a gun being cocked under the table. "I've been thinking," I said. "Maybe I did overreact. I know grief can scramble a man. Maybe I just remembered wrong." Her shoulders loosened. "I told you, Pops. I'd never steal from you." I nodded slowly. "Sure. But just between us, you did sell Grandma's jewelry, didn't you? Just to cover rent or something. I'm not angry." She froze for a heartbeat, eyes flicking toward the floor, then smiled again, smaller, guilt curling at the edge. "It was just sitting there. You said I should shine like Grandma. I thought you meant I could use it. Besides, you wouldn't have done anything with it." "That's true," I said. "You're right." She relaxed fully, sipping her coffee. "And I needed cash. Kyle said he could flip it for double, but the pawn guy lowballed us. We only got like $1,200. The word we hit like a piston firing clean. I leaned back, let the silence hum. "Kyle?" "Yeah," she said, waving a hand. "My boyfriend. He said no one would miss it. I was gonna buy it back later, swear to God." Every word dropped into the recorder like nails into a box. She laughed nervously. "You're not gonna rat me out, are you? I mean, no one believes you anyway. You'd look crazy dragging this up again." I smiled then, not kind, not cruel, just steady. "Don't worry, sweetheart. I won't say a word." She grinned, relieved, and headed upstairs to grab the last of her things. The moment her footsteps faded, I stopped the recorder and slipped it into the manila folder beside the photos and receipts. Physical evidence #1, video proof. Physical evidence #2, confession recording. When she left, she gave me a hug that felt like counterfeit warmth. "Glad we cleared that up," she said. The door shut. The rain started again. I sat at the kitchen table staring at the recorder. Its tiny red light blinked 3 times before going dark. Job done. I called Janet. "She came, she talked," I said. "Good," she replied. "Bring everything in tomorrow. We'll stack the file. Pawn video, payment record, her confession. That's a full case." Before hanging up, her tone softened. "Sam, be careful tonight. Once she realizes what you have, she might panic." That night, I checked the locks twice. Around 10, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Drop it, old man. You've done enough damage. Next time it won't just be jewelry you lose." I stared at the screen until the words blurred, then forwarded the text to Janet. The proof was airtight now, and the fear on the other end of that message told me the tide was turning. I poured myself one last coffee and whispered toward Linda's photograph. They wanted to sell memories. I'm about to make sure the whole town remembers this one. Tomorrow, I'd walk into that station with my evidence. And finally, the truth would stop being just mine. Morning light came pale and cold through the blinds when I loaded the manila folder into my truck. Inside it were the pieces of truth, each one sharp enough to cut through every lie she'd built. Janet met me at the back of the station again. She looked dead serious. You ready to finish this? I've been ready since the day that jewelry box vanished, I said. We laid everything out on her desk. The pawn shop video, time-stamped and authenticated. The payment record showing Emily's card. The audio file of her own voice admitting the sale. The threatening text. She nodded slowly. This is airtight. We'll file for an affidavit and a warrant. But, Sam, be prepared. When she realizes it's official, she'll come at you hard. I've been a mechanic all my life, I said. When pressure hits, I don't break. I tighten bolts. By late afternoon, Janet called. The report's logged. She'll get notified by tomorrow morning. But I didn't have to wait that long. That evening, Emily showed up on my porch, mascara running, hands shaking. Pops, what did you do? I kept my voice calm. I told the truth. You went to the police? Are you trying to ruin my life? I didn't have to. You did that yourself when you sold Linda's ring. Her voice cracked. You don't understand. Kyle said it would be quick money. We'd pay it back. I didn't mean to. I held up a hand. You didn't mean to lie. Didn't mean to humiliate me in front of my son. Or didn't mean to get caught. Tears streaked her face, but her words sharpened. You'll regret this. Everyone already thinks you're crazy. I'll tell them you forged that recording. I'll tell them you threatened me. That might have worked before, I said softly. But the pawn shop footage doesn't lie. The receipts don't lie. And your voice doesn't lie either. Her mouth opened, closed, then twisted into something between guilt and rage. You're not the hero here, Pops. You're just a lonely old man who can't stand losing control. She spun toward the door. You'll see what losing really feels like when this blows up. The door slammed so hard the frame rattled. I stood there a long time, staring at Linda's photograph on the mantel. You always said truth's a slow engine, I whispered. Well, it's running now. An hour later, Janet called again. She's been served, she said. The moment the warrant hit her email, she called the department, screaming that you fabricated evidence. I've already filed the chain of custody report. She's cornered, Sam. Outside, headlights swept across my driveway. Emily's car slowed, then sped off into the dark. I sat by the window until the night swallowed everything. The anger that used to feel like fire now felt cold and steady, like forged steel. Tomorrow, the official investigation would begin. Her name, her posts, her lies, they'd all be pulled apart in daylight. And for the first time since this began, I didn't feel like a man on defense. I felt like the one holding the wrench. By morning, the storm had turned public. My phone buzzed nonstop. Neighbors, old co-workers, even a reporter from the Herald asking if I wanted to comment on the family dispute going viral. Emily had gone on the offensive. She posted a shaky selfie video from her car, tears streaming, voice trembling in perfect rhythm. I love my grandpa, she said, but he's sick. He's paranoid. He's accusing me of horrible things because he's confused. I'm scared for him. Within hours, the comments flooded in. Sympathy for her, pity for me. Poor girl caring for a delusional man. That old mechanic's lost it. It was the same humiliation all over again, except this time with a global audience. At noon, Richard called. Dad, stop whatever you're doing. Emily's being destroyed online. People are harassing her. I clenched my jaw. She did that to herself. You've crossed a line, Dad. If you don't take those accusations down, I'll go to court and file for guardianship. You need help. Guardianship? I said quietly. Over me? He hesitated. You're not thinking straight. I can't watch you self-destruct. The line went dead. and the house went silent except for the rain. For a long moment, I just stood there, the weight of 40 years pressing down, 40 years of keeping my head down, fixing what was broken, doing right by family. Then headlights flashed outside again. Tom's truck. He burst through the door, holding a folder. "Sam, she's digging herself a hole." He flipped it open. Inside were screenshots, fresh from a private group chat one of his buddies leaked. Emily and her boyfriend Kyle bragging about getting ahead of the old man's case, even laughing about how she used the crazy angle. Tom grinned. "I sent these straight to Janet. She's moving fast." My phone buzzed again, this time a voicemail alert. Janet's voice came through steady but urgent. "Sam, the DA's reviewing the file. They want a formal statement tomorrow morning. And listen, don't engage online, no matter what. You've already won more ground than you think." But the night wasn't done testing me. At 11:42 p.m., a thud hit the porch. I opened the door and saw a brick lying amid shattered glass. One of my windows cracked wide open. Taped to the brick was a note written in sloppy marker, "Drop the charges or you'll regret it." I picked it up, hands steady, and called Janet immediately. Within minutes, a patrol car rolled up. Officers took photos, bagged the note, and assured me they'd dust for prints. As they left, one of them, a young kid, maybe 20, looked back and said, "You all right, sir?" I nodded. "I've been better." When the house went quiet again, I walked into the garage and stood beside Linda's old toolbox. The red paint was faded, but the word Turner still shone across the lid. I traced it with a thumb and whispered, "They wanted a fight. They've got one now." The next morning, I'd be in front of the district attorney, with Janet and Tom at my side. The posts, the lies, the threats, all of it would come into the light. And when truth finally burns, it burns clean. The county courthouse smelled of old paper and cold coffee when I walked in the next morning. My boots echoed down the tiled hallway like they used to on the concrete floors of the shop. Steady, deliberate, one step at a time. Janet met me at the entrance, wearing plain clothes but the same no-nonsense expression. Tom followed behind, carrying a box of files. "Everything's lined up," she said quietly. "They've got Emily and her lawyer coming in for questioning." We waited in a conference room that felt more like a holding cell for truth. When the door opened, Emily stepped in with her attorney, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit who smiled like he was used to bluffing his way out of bad hands. She wouldn't meet my eyes. The DA, a woman named Marcia Dunn, sat at the head of the table. "We're here to review evidence of theft and defamation," she said. "Mr. Turner, please summarize." I slid the folder forward. Calm hands, clear voice. "This contains the pawnshop video, the receipt from Emily's debit card, and an audio recording of her admitting to the sale. There's also a printed transcript of a threatening text sent afterward." The lawyer started. "Objection. None of this has been authenticated." Marcia cut him off. "Already verified. Officer Cross provided the chain of custody yesterday." Janet pressed play. The room filled with the sound of Emily's voice. "Kyle said no one would miss it. We only got 1,200. Emily's face drained of color. The lawyer reached for the pause button, but Marcia's hand stopped him. "Let it finish." Then came the line that sealed it. "You're not going to rat me out, are you? No one believes you anyway." When the recording ended, silence fell like a dropped wrench. Marcia leaned forward. "Miss Turner, do you deny this is your voice?" Emily's lips trembled. "It was a joke. I didn't mean—" Janet laid down the pawnshop footage. printed frame by frame, showing Emily at the counter, the jewelry box unmistakable in her hands. "This isn't a joke," Janet said. "It's evidence." The DA turned to me. "Mr. Turner, do you wish to press formal charges for fraud, property theft, and slander?" I looked at Emily then. Really looked at her. The same girl who used to ride on my shoulders at the county fair. The same kid who'd fallen asleep on Linda's lap while I read from the Bible after dinner. "Yes," I said quietly, "for my wife's name, and for mine." Marcia nodded. "So noted. We'll proceed." The lawyer tried one last swing. "This could destroy her future. She's remorseful." "Remorse doesn't erase a lie," Marcia replied, "and it doesn't pay back stolen property." Emily finally looked up at me, tears streaking her face. "I didn't think you'd actually go through with it, Pops." "I didn't think you'd sell your grandmother's ring," I said. "We both misjudged something." When the meeting ended, Tom clapped my shoulder. "You did good, Sam. Better than good." As we stepped into the hallway, Janet pulled a paper from her folder, the official charge sheet, stamped and signed. "Once this is filed, restitution and defamation suits follow," she said. "You've got both truth and the law on your side now." I took the document. Reading the black ink that spelled out months of humiliation turned into proof. Fraud, theft, falsification of evidence, threats. For the first time since Linda died, I felt my lungs fill without that ache behind my ribs. We walked outside together into crisp air. Reporters waited near the steps, shouting questions, flashing cameras. I didn't answer any of them. I just held the folder tight against my chest and kept walking. Behind me, I heard Janet murmur to Tom, "That man just reclaimed his whole life." And she was right. The story they told about the senile old man was finished. The one about the man who refused to be erased had just begun. The court hearing took place 2 weeks later, but word had already spread through town before the first gavel hit wood. The same neighbors who once whispered that I'd lost it were now sitting in the gallery, pretending they hadn't believed every lie. When the judge called us to order, Emily sat 2 rows ahead beside her lawyer, eyes red, lips pressed tight. Janet and Tom sat behind me like twin anchors holding the ship steady. The district attorney laid out everything piece by piece: video evidence, financial records, confession audio, the threatening text, and even the brick from my porch with her fingerprints still visible. The lawyer tried to spin it as misguided desperation, but the evidence hit like hammer strikes. Clean, final, undeniable. When the pawnshop footage played on the screen, the courtroom went still. Linda's jewelry box gleamed under those harsh fluorescent lights. The sound of the cash drawer opening might as well have been thunder. Then the recording rolled, Emily's own voice trembling through the speakers. "Kyle said no one would miss it. We only got 1,200. Even the lawyer dropped his pen. Judge Arlen McCready cleared his throat. "Miss Turner, this evidence is conclusive. You not only stole property, you defamed your grandfather publicly and falsified digital records. Do you have anything to say before sentencing?" Emily's tears came hard now. "I just wanted to fix things, pay off my debt. I didn't mean to hurt him." I stood slowly. "She didn't just hurt me, Your Honor. She rewrote the story of my wife's life and made me look like a fool for remembering her. That's not debt. That's betrayal." The judge nodded gravely. "Then this court will see it made right." He read the verdict. Guilty on all counts. Emily was ordered to pay full restitution, perform community service, and issue a public apology across every platform where she'd smeared my name. Her accomplice, Kyle, was referred for separate prosecution. The hammer fell. Bang! In that single sound, months of humiliation lifted off my shoulders like rust scraped from steel. As people filed out, Richard approached, eyes down. "Dad," he said softly, "I'm sorry. I believed her over you. I should have known better." I looked at him for a long time, then placed a hand on his shoulder. "What matters is you believe me now. That's enough." Outside, cameras waited, reporters shouting for quotes, microphones chasing faces. I didn't stop for any of them. I walked down the courthouse steps with the same calm I'd used to fix engines my whole life. One bolt at a time, steady and sure. Tom laughed under his breath. "You just taught half this town what accountability looks like." Janet smiled. "And the other half what integrity sounds like." The wind was sharp, but it felt good. Clean. Real. That night I went home, placed Linda's photo back on the mantel, and set the empty jewelry box beside it. Inside I put one thing, a printed copy of the verdict. Then I turned off the radio, poured a cup of black coffee, and sat in the quiet house that no longer felt haunted. I wasn't the senile old man they said I was. I was the man who refused to let truth die in silence. And this time, everyone in town knew it.